Uncle Drama here. Imagine this. You call your brother right before a big competition, wishing him good luck, and he playfully demands that you hand him the gold medal you're destined to win. But before the call ends, something feels off. He's acting strange. Moments later, your world is turned upside down by devastating news. The police? They close the case without a second thought. But, deep down, something's not right. Now, it's on you to clear his name, to seek the justice he never got, to avenge not just his death, but the truth itself. Meet Oken Min and Oken Kyung, twin brothers abandoned in an orphanage, their bonds seemingly unbreakable. But fate? It's not kind. One is adopted by a rich, devout family, while the other is left behind. They lose touch, their lives taking different paths, until they make a pact to reunite after high school during military service. But just a day before Oken Min's shooting competition, his brother mysteriously vanishes, and the last call they share is abruptly cut off. Distracted and anxious, Oken Min's performance suffers, leaving him with a bronze medal instead of gold. Days go by without a word from his brother, pushing him to make a bold move. He travels from Busan to Seoul, determined to find him, to show him that despite everything, he made it to the podium. But when he arrives, he's hit with a cold, brutal truth. His brother is dead. The police say he did it to himself, and his adoptive parents? They accept it, convinced the devil himself tempted their son. But Oken Min knows better. His brother's phone? Nowhere to be found. If he was alone, why aren't all his belongings accounted for? The police shrug him off with a chilling, dismissive line. Sometimes, people pretend they're okay. Feeling powerless and with no legal right to challenge the investigation, Oken Min makes a decision. He transfers to his brother's school, ready to uncover the truth himself. With his skills as a top athlete, he's easily accepted, and this new chapter in Seoul begins. It's here he crosses paths with Hyunk, another young man burdened with his own struggles. A sick mother, endless responsibilities, and a stolen scooter that he can't seem to keep. Fate ties them together when Chanmi, the girl who saves Hyunk's life, returns the stolen scooter, sparking a connection that leads them both into the same class at the same school. Due to an incident not worth detailing, people started to think they were dating. This false relationship grew even stronger because he needed to leave early, and she had to attend practices, which made Hyunk's ex-girlfriend quite jealous. Chanmi managed to get the number of her brother's girlfriend, whose name is Hyunk, and when she called, she noticed that he answered. So she started following him to see what he was up to, and what happened next was quite unfortunate, as she arrived at a hospital and discovered he had an inoperable brain tumor. According to the tests, his life expectancy ranged from 6 months to a year and a half, which isn't much. A couple of days later, Chanmi finds the room where she last spoke with her brother, and while recalling this, Hyunk tells her that the boy who died there was his classmate, though he wasn't really his friend. By coincidence, Hyunk was the one who saw him fall and called the police. This obviously piques Chanmi's interest, but she says nothing to hide her suspicions. He then comments that they shouldn't miss lunch, which he uses as an opportunity to introduce her to his lunch, a stray cat he had been feeding for quite some time. And, indeed, that's how it happened. While he was feeding the cat, he saw her brother fall. In the cafeteria, Chanmi acts as if nothing happened, joking and having fun with her classmates, not showing any concern over the news she received. Additionally, new characters enter the story, like Sung-hyun, who is a school bully and had been suspended for harassing a girl for a while, and Sung-hyun, a rather mysterious figure. In class, Sung-hyun starts saying it was a pity he didn't beat up Sung-hyun before he died, indicating they were rivals. This angers Chanmi, so she tells him to shut up, causing a minor altercation between them. If it weren't for the appearance of Jack Boone and his sidekick, things could have ended very badly. Jack Boone is a student who lost his memory due to an accident he suffered, and since he was in a coma for 6 months, he had to repeat his final year. Apparently, his father is an important person, as the school principal treats him very favorably. And see how life is curious. To stimulate his mind, he must exercise, and he was assigned to Chanmi as a shooting apprentice. His determined attitude sparks his interest in her. which becomes even clearer when at the end of the day, he approaches her and asks for her number. This situation worries Sung-yeon, and to make matters worse, as he had the phone number of Chami's brother's girlfriend, he saw the message where Chami asked to meet with her. So he went to ask Chami what kind of relationship they had, as theoretically, she was new to the school. However, this conversation didn't lead to anything very interesting. The next day, during class, Hyunk had a severe headache and had to leave without permission. When Chami noticed that he was taking too long to return, she went to the boys' restroom to look for him. Although she didn't find him, she did find a girl who was on the verge of dying, so they had to call emergency services. The police officers who arrived were the same ones who had investigated Chami's brother's case, and the only noteworthy thing here was that Detective Jean asked Chami to stop investigating on her own, warning her that it could get her into a lot of trouble. Later that night, Soyeon tried to deceive Chami by pretending to be her friend, but the plan didn't go as expected since Chami had seen a photo of Ah-hyun. So, Soyeon suggested that the best person to clarify things would be In-sun Min, a girl who, it seemed, had been pregnant by one of Chami's friends. A middleman was sent to pressure her into taking a pregnancy test to confirm or deny the pregnancy, or to make her friend take responsibility. The problem was that they pressured her so much that she ended up switching schools. This made Soyeon reflect on how that situation ended, making her question if Chami's brother was really the person he appeared to be. On the other hand, Soyeon was receiving bad news herself. Her health condition could worsen if she didn't start treatment in time. The doctor was very honest with her, explaining that the only possible treatment would be taking a large number of medications to prevent the tumor from growing, thus prolonging her life a bit more. In addition, the tumor could start causing new symptoms like depression, extreme joy, anger, and strange thoughts that could come out of nowhere, which had already happened on a few occasions. However, this wasn't the worst news. Her mother was also sick and needed money for treatment. On top of that, Soyeon needed her new treatment and more medications, so she decided to accept the offer Soyeon had previously made. This offer involved helping a friend of Soyeon who was being bullied, just as Hyunk had helped Soyeon in the past. She had been the victim of extreme bullying, to the point of being hospitalized from the injuries. Hyunk had intervened back then, making the girls apologize and giving Soyeon the strength to carry on. Now, since that formula had worked before, he decided to do the same. That night, he went to the school to pressure Young-yong into withdrawing. Scared, Young-yong quickly accepted to avoid getting hurt. However, there was a slight change of plans as Young-yong tried to blackmail the girl with photos he had taken on the day he began harassing her, which triggered a new wave of anger in Hyunk. In response, he ran off, jumped a fence, and encountered Chami, who noticed that his shoes had a bit of blood on them. The next day, at the cemetery, they crossed paths, and Chami took the opportunity to tell Hyunk that her twin brother was Chon-kyung and that she was investigating what had happened to him, asking Hyunk to keep it a secret. She also mentioned that her brother's name had been changed, but to avoid confusion, she continued to refer to him as Chon-kyung. With this, Hyunk decided to open up too, revealing that his own brother had been a victim of bullying. He tried not to give in and let it break him, but it resulted in him being denied access to the bathroom, and they filmed him as he wet his pants, an unbearable humiliation for him. Back at school, they encountered an unusual scene. Young-yong had withdrawn and left to the front door for everyone to see, just as Hyunk had ordered, which sparked a rumor that a hero was at the school. After a game, Chami went looking for Young, her brother's friend who had been defended during the false pregnancy rumor episode. When she overheard Young say he defended him because he was a good person, Chami felt confused, not knowing whether to believe her brother was good or bad. Young, however, didn't want to continue talking about the matter, as it was something he had already put behind him. Noticing that Young had forgotten his phone, Chami followed him home and discovered that he and Hijin were siblings. This happened at the same time Seo Jaeyoung was receiving and delivering a payment for a job. One day at school, Young-yong arrived with the police to investigate who had attacked him, but the problem was that no one wanted to report the hero responsible, Among all the rumors, the only thing the police managed to uncover was that someone saw the hero jumping a fence. This reminded Chammy of seeing Seo Jae-young jumping a fence at the same spot. So she decided to go to his house to clear things up. Taking advantage of the fact that no one was home, she searched for the shoes Seo Jae-young was wearing that night. She almost got caught but managed to escape because Seo Jae-young had another bout of pain, giving her time to flee unnoticed. However, he recovered just in time to see her leaving. On the street, the police took the opportunity to question her, as a camera had recorded her as a witness. Chammy admitted that yes, she had seen Seo Jae-young that night. The police then decided to question him. Everything seemed to be going fine until they found blood on his shoes. While you and I know where that blood came from, the police did not. To try to defuse the situation, Seo Jae-young explained that he was in that alley because, as a boxer, he liked to run on different terrains to get used to them. This detail ended up helping him. And Chongmin also didn't hand the shoes over to the police, as she remembered seeing Seo Jae-young bleeding on the rooftop. She thought that if people found out about his health condition, he might be treated with pity by everyone at school. Chammy went to Seo Jae-young's house to apologize and return the shoes. As a thank you, he told her not to worry, as the hero probably had nothing to do with her brother, since that was just another rumor going around. Although this left Chammy intrigued, she kept insisting until they entered the classroom, where Seo Jae-young intervened to protect his ex-girlfriend. This sparked a small argument that worsened later when the rumor began circulating that Chammy and Seo Jae-young were half-siblings. Don't ask me why, but this was a very important secret for them. At night, Detective Jae-young went to a bowling alley, but not to pressure Seo Jae-young. She was there for a date with her husband, who, coincidentally, was the doctor in charge of Seo Jae-young's case. Meanwhile, at school, someone set a trap for Chammy by stealing her phone. Strangely, Boom, who had seen her enter the theater, decided to follow her and found her unconscious. He took her to his family's hospital. While Chammy was hospitalized, a big commotion erupted at the school as a photo of Seo Jae-young, edited to damage his reputation, began to circulate. To solve this, Chammy tracked down the source of the photo, which was her own phone, explaining why it had been stolen. While Chammy and Seo Jae-young were discussing the matter, he appeared to take her away, as he knew that this was only the beginning of the problems to come. He asked her to let things be and to pretend ignorance, as trying to solve everything would only make things worse. Boom tried to use his influence to access the security cameras, but unfortunately, he said he found nothing. With Chammy becoming a problem for them, Seo Jae-young spoke to his father, who was a police captain, to force Chammy to return to her old school, claiming that she was illegally living in a university residence, something prohibited for minors. Jae-hyun, on the other hand, used a more direct approach to persuade her. Despite being at a disadvantage, Chammy fought back but ended up losing. Seo Jae-young, who saw everything from the gym balcony, ran to help her, but it was too late. Things got worse when Chammy returned to the dormitory and found out they had played a cruel prank with her photos, and the police threatened the building owner, saying that if she wasn't expelled that night, the place would be shut down. Luckily, Seo Jae-young found her wallet and, seeing her in that state, offered his home for her to stay in. After showing her where everything was and preparing a meal, he explained that he would sleep at the gym so as not to disturb her. Meanwhile, Seo Jae-young reviewed the photos on Chammy's phone, suggesting that he or someone he hired had obtained that information. That's how he discovered her connection to Chon Jae-young, her twin brother. The next day, many things happened. Seo Jae-young met with Young Jae-young, who asked him to investigate who had attacked him. Later, Boom saw Seo Jae-young and his cousins in the gym and scolded them for wearing the wrong shoes. A fight almost broke out, but Seo Jae-young was there and defended them. In the late afternoon, someone manipulated a monk's presentation in the auditorium to show a video of Chon Jae-young falling, finally revealing that he had been pushed. This reopened the investigation, and the case was assigned to Detective Jean. That night, Seo Jae-young tried to console Chammy, and Jae-pung confronted his friend to find out why he had attacked. The friend replied that he hated Chanmi and wanted her out of the school, as he had found out that she was Chon Jae-young's twin sister. If you're wondering what happened, the cameras did indeed capture the incident, but Seo Jae-young hid it from Chanmi to handle the situation himself. In the end, the police began investigating the case, and Chanmi received another note to meet with a mysterious person. However, when she arrived at the meeting, Jae-pung appeared and ruined the person's plan, who simply fled. As nothing significant happened, Chanmi went to the detectives, who had called her to get more details about the video call and to apologize for not believing her. Later, they interviewed Seo Jae-young, who mentioned that he had a silly argument with Chon Jae-young but couldn't even remember why. The only person he found suspicious was Seo Jae-young due to his strange behavior when they were together. Later, Seo Jae-young visited his mother at the hospital. She apologized for giving him such a difficult life, but said she would be happy as long as he was well, without even imagining the serious condition her son was in. When he returned home, Chonmin asked him to accompany her to pick up some things at her brother's house, as her adoptive parents, who were very religious, had started acting strangely after his death. They seemed very calm, which irritated Seo Jae-young, as they didn't even show the slightest interest in clarifying their son's death. At the gym, Chanmi opened a suitcase that had a lock with the date they were abandoned, and inside, there were several personal items, though nothing unusual. Reflecting, she mentioned to Seo Jae-young that the following year she would join the army, as she had promised her brother. This made him remember what his mother had said, that a parent's happiness is seeing their children grow up and achieve their dreams. However, as we know, he only has about a year left to live. Without saying anything, Chanmi saw him on the balcony and consoled him, understanding his feelings. A few days earlier, Ah-young had returned to school after spending some time at a talent academy, as she was preparing to become an idol. When she reunited with Chanmi, she told her that what she saw in the photos about her relationship with her brother was false. In fact, Ah-young had only asked for a favor from Chanmi's brother because she was being harassed by her ex-boyfriend, and they pretended to be dating to solve the issue. So, she really didn't know much about Chanmi's brother and asked to be left alone. Later, Ah-young revealed to her friends that she was pregnant and planned to have the baby, although she hadn't yet said who the father was. Returning to Chanmi, she found a cafe where her brother used to meet his girlfriend. There, she met someone who, at one point, defended Young Kyung's brother, who was being bullied for being adopted by two men. Their friendship was quite strong, and he even told her that he was also adopted and had a twin sister. Meanwhile, So-young was accompanying Ah-young to a medical appointment about her pregnancy. The two heard the story of a young man who lost his life after being rejected by the doctor's daughter. Now, he was pressuring the doctor to withdraw the complaint because it was affecting his family's business. Remember that Young used to defend Young Kyung? Well, that's where their friendship started, and he even invited him to race on a track. When they finished, So-yeon saw them together, as she was looking for Young to offer him a new job. If you're wondering about the doctor's case, the bold young man went so far as to say that because he was a minor, nothing would happen to him. But regardless of his age, he knew exactly what he was doing, and justice should be for everyone. When he accepted the job, So-yeon began investigating. At school, Young left Ah-young to meet with So-yeon and even invited him to a basketball game, which made Ah-young jealous. During class, Ah-young asked about a photo she found in a notebook, as someone had left it there. Strangely, when she got home, she discovered that her things were out of place, and in the photo, she was horseback riding with Young, indicating that they were very close. As the police reopened Chanmi's brother's case, the best solution was to destroy all the evidence so it couldn't be investigated, as he barely remembered any details anyway. In the late afternoon, So-yeon went to find Young and informed him that this was his last chance to complete the job, as she was about to move. This made Jung change his plans. Soyeon, however, warned him to be careful and not overdo it this time, as the last job had been too exposed, and now they had the police on their tail. It seemed like everything was under control, but someone had already taken care of the problem. And, speaking of which, Chami discovered that her brother's friend had accidentally recorded the incident, and all this time he had been trying to find a way to tell what really happened. As he was her brother's only true friend, he preferred to leave the school to avoid being harassed, and since he couldn't contact Chami directly, he decided to make the video public. Finally, he told her that the only suspect that came to his mind was Soyeon, as he recognized the different shoelaces he was wearing when he left the building. Meanwhile, Soyeon was apologizing to Jae-bong, while Jose Hong was watching closely. Suspiciously, Jose Hong mentioned that the next target would be Seo Jaeyoung. Somehow, the rumor spread that Chan Kyung and Chami were sisters, which led Ji-young to mock Chami for playing detective, sparking a heated argument that Jung ended up getting involved in. After this fight, Chami risked being expelled, at least until the investigation was concluded. Now, as the three girls had something in common, they ended up forming a friendship. Jung mentioned that her brother was a good boy, very kind and strong, but he changed in the second year when he started hanging out with Jose Hong, which made him behave more aggressively. By the way, remember the rumor about the pregnant girl? Well, Jose Hong was a friend involved, who seemed to have blackmailed Chami's brother to solve the problem for him. Detective Jean was then assigned to Chami's brother's case. Since there were many similarities with the school case, she decided to investigate further. She interrogated Jung Kyung, who recalled that the attacker smelled of machine oil, hospital alcohol, and had a very strong blow, which knocked him out instantly. Moreover, the way the attacker spoke didn't seem like a common thug, leading the detective to deduce that everything pointed to Seo Jaeyoung. So, she went to interrogate him, although she didn't have much concrete evidence at the moment. Meanwhile, Jose Hong had a heated argument with Jung Kyung, saying they needed to deal with Chami as soon as possible since she was getting in the way of their plans. Curiously, he promised to handle the situation, but when he spoke with Chami, he said he felt very bad about what had happened and that it wasn't her fault. As compensation for all the good her brother had done, he promised to help her so that she wouldn't be expelled, since he and his parents were part of the school's disciplinary committee. Soyeon, after collecting the money from the doctor, found out that the boy had died. Although justice was served, it wasn't exactly what they had hoped for. That night, Soyeon went to speak with Jung to clarify what had happened, as he knew he hadn't done anything wrong, only scared him. However, he couldn't turn himself in because he had to take care of his mother. The problem is that he didn't even get a moment's rest, as Detective Jean went through his things due to suspicions linked to a video. Although it drew a lot of attention, they found nothing. The detective then decided to search Jung's locker at the gym, resulting in a race between them to see who would get there first. Unfortunately, Jung arrived too late, and the detective had already opened the locker. Fortunately, they found nothing incriminating, and after being bothered by the detective, he warned her that he wouldn't allow the police to keep searching his things without permission, managing to delay further investigations for a while. Now, about the suitcase. Chami removed it to send it to herself in Busan, as she planned to travel there the next day. She was convinced that Seo Jaeyoung was the culprit and wanted to bring justice with her own hands, without police interference. That's why she left a note for Seo Jaeyoung, informing him that the suitcase was in Busan and he would have to go get it. In an abandoned warehouse, Chami confronted him with one of her sports shooting guns, forcing him to confess. After a warning shot, Seo Jaeyoung admitted to being the hero, but swore he hadn't done anything to Chami's brother. This led to a small fight, where Seo Jaeyoung disarmed Chami and said that if she didn't believe him, he would handle it himself. At the crucial moment, Chami's brother's phone rang. No one spoke on the other end, and the phone was immediately hung up, making Chammy realize that Seo Jae-young wasn't the culprit, as he didn't have the phone. As an apology, Chammy took him to a photo booth to treat him and gave him clean clothes. This moment created a closer bond, and even a romantic atmosphere between the two. However, Jae-bong, who was struggling, was surprised by an unexpected memory, realizing that he hadn't had an accident but had tried to take his own life. He shared this with Seo Jae-young, who confirmed his suspicions and asked him to stay calm. His family had hidden the truth so that he wouldn't question what had happened and could move forward. Seo Jae-young handed Jae-bong some photos he had asked to be kept before the accident. Among them were very strange photos, where he appeared with Chong-yeon. Because of this, Seo Jae-young advised Jae-bong not to talk about this matter with anyone, as the content of the photos could be misinterpreted. Meanwhile, Chammy was trying to bring justice on her own, after discovering that the suitcase was linked to a lead Onsen Kong had mentioned about the masked hero. With nowhere to stay, Chammy and Seo Jae-young spent the night together in a laundromat. While there, they listened to the phone call recording where a very peculiar ringtone was heard in the background. The next morning, Seo Jae-young left while Chammy was still asleep. Unfortunately, upon arriving in Seoul, he had a relapse on the subway. Detective Jean, who was looking for Seo Jae-young, crossed paths with Chammy and noticed she was being very harsh. Sensing this, the detective decided to leave her alone, but not before advising her to stay away from Seo Jae-young. During class, 2 glitches occurred, and Onsen Kong was sent to look for Jae-bong, while Jae-hyun went after Seo Jae-young, as both were monitors of their respective classes. Jae-bong's mother had placed a tracker on her son, and he was at the boxing gym, where he followed Chammy. Noticing strange things, Jae-bong tricked Chammy into leaving, and thus managed to confirm if the two were really living together. From the photos Chammy had taken in Busan, he concluded that they were dating. Shortly after, Chammy's brothers arrived and were surprised to hear the news, but didn't do anything. The next day, Chammy's motorcycle lost its brakes. Luckily, she came out unscathed but soon realized that the brakes had been cut intentionally. Determined, she went to school with a megaphone to call out the person who had sabotaged her motorcycle. And that wasn't all. When she got home, Chammy discovered that Seo Jae-young's room had been completely destroyed and the photo of the two of them had been taken. While all this was happening, Detective Jean discovered 2 important things. First, she suspected that Chammy was hiding the suitcase. And second, she found out that Seo Jae-young was hospitalized because of the tumor in his head. Oh, and there's more. Seo Jae-young also discovered that Seo Jae-young was the masked hero. From now on, whenever the police asked about Seo Jae-young, the recommendation would be to say they didn't know him. Additionally, Seo Jae-young was in love with Chammy. That afternoon, when Chammy got home, she scolded Seo Jae-young as she was very worried about him. However, this quickly passed as she tricked him into taking him to a surprise party since it was his birthday. Everything seemed to be going well until So-young showed up looking for Jae-bong again. While they were talking, So-young's phone rang and he recognized the ringtone as the same from the mysterious call they had received earlier. Now that they knew whose phone it wasn't enough just to get revenge. They wanted to find out what really happened and what So-young's plan was. Suddenly, So-young changed the subject and asked what Chammy wanted for her birthday present. She replied that she wanted the laces from his shoes, as she had always found them interesting. So-young then explained that he wore those laces in honor of his mother, who could no longer walk. He put them on his shoes so that, symbolically, he could take her to the most beautiful places. In the end, he gave her the laces. At the same time, Jae-bong confessed to So-young that he wasn't feeling well, with strong episodes, and said he didn't believe that he and Jae-bong had ever been lovers. So-young tried to calm him down, but the conversation turned into an intense argument, with So-young's tone rising and falling. The next day, they planned a fight during class to distract Soyoung and steal his phone to confirm if he had made the call. When they managed to check the phone, they realized it wasn't the same as before. Another important detail was that Soyoung retrieved his phone using a tracker and found out that Soyoung had hidden it in the bathroom. Now they needed a new plan. Chammy would distract Soyoung in a cafe, while Soyoung tricked Jahong into taking him to study at his house. With that, Soyoung could take the opportunity to search for the phone in his room. However, what he found were strange photos where everyone seemed to be friends. A photo that Jahong had posted on social media made him realize what was happening, and he ran to try to stop it, starting a fight at his house. However, the fight was quickly interrupted by Detective Jean, who arrived to arrest Soyoung, as he was involved in the mechanics case. They had found a receipt linking him to the crime. Of course, it wasn't that simple, as he was the son of the police captain, and the father tried to cover up the case. But since I know you prefer action over technical details, let's move on. That night, Soyoung found out that his mother's health had worsened and that the machines keeping her alive were very expensive. Desperate, he went looking for Seo Jaeyoung to get a new job. Coincidentally, Jung Yeong was chasing a girl at another school, and her father hired Soyoung to solve the problem once and for all, regardless of the cost. However, this was complicated, as the police were watching them. Due to circumstances not worth detailing, Jung accepted the job. What they didn't expect was that they were already being watched, as Soyoung had informed Jung Yeong that Seo Jaeyoung was a hero who had attacked him. Now, everyone was waiting for Seo Jaeyoung with cameras to expose him publicly. All of this was set up because Jung Yeong's father found out about the fight and suspected that Seo Jaeyoung had entered his room again. They used the mechanic's receipt to frame him. Unfortunately, that same night, Seo Jaeyoung's mother passed away at 1 minute past midnight. It was thanks to this that his friends realized the trap. Jung Yeong created an Instagram account for everyone at school to follow and did a live broadcast to unmask Seo Jaeyoung. It seems the plan worked, as they managed to remove Seo Jaeyoung's mask just in time to break the news. Although Seo Jaeyoung switched places with Jae-bun for the police investigation, the interrogations showed that everything was treated as a prank, so none of the three faced legal trouble. Jae-bun decided to betray his friend because he discovered he had been manipulating him with photos. There were many pictures in which they were all together as a group, not just as if they were a couple. After the funeral, they accompanied Jung Yeong to the cemetery to leave his mother's ashes, also taking the opportunity to visit his brother's grave, whom they didn't know. In the same cemetery, they also paid tribute to Jae-bong, remembering him as the good boy he was, but also the person he had become before he died. At school, Jae-bong confronted Ho-zong, unsure if he could trust him, accusing him of hiding the other photos. Ho-zong replied that everything would become clear when Jae-bong remembered what happened the day they went horseback riding. Ho-zong, for his part, was irritated when he got home, as situations like this were leading the police to investigate him more and more. The police even confiscated his phone. Meanwhile, upon leaving the bathroom, Jae-bong found his room completely ransacked, except for a cabinet he himself had locked, but couldn't remember why. The next morning, Chanmin asked Jae-bong to talk to his friend one last time, as she planned to hide on stage and record everything when he incriminated himself. That way, they could catch him. However, Jae-bong's friend didn't say anything useful. Instead, he claimed that Chan Cheong had pushed someone from the balcony that day after he was discovered on the horseback ride, which would mark 1 year the next day. This made Chanmin realize that her brother might not have been as good as she thought. This revelation devastated her, but she didn't have time to process it, as when she left, she saw that Seo Jaeyoung was being taken to the hospital. He had suffered a relapse after a confrontation with Ho-zong. Worried, she informed the paramedics about the tumor in his head, and her classmates overheard. To calm the situation, the doctor decided to sedate Seo Jae-young for 24 hours. During that time, Seo Jae-young dreamed he was meeting his mother and brother in a park for the last time, but suddenly they disappeared, leaving him with enormous sadness. When he woke up, Seo Jae-young received a video from Chami apologizing for leaving without telling him, saying it no longer made sense to continue investigating, as she had already discovered the type of person her brother was. She also left a farewell video for Jae-pung, probably using information she got from Ho-sung. The big revelation came when she realized that Ho-sung was wearing red laces with white shoes, which made her think he might be involved in what happened to Chang-kyung, as her friend had mentioned something similar. Additionally, she discovered that Ho-sung and Yoon-kyung had met in a trailer to discuss the failed trap, and Chami decided that it was the perfect time to take justice into her own hands. Before crossing the line, Jae-pung arrived to stop Seo Jae-young. While they talked about various things, Chanmin was at a pier, looking at pictures of her brother, and by the dates, she realized that what Ho-sung said was a lie. They were in Busan at that time, which meant it was false that Chang-kyung had pushed someone off the building. With this new information, Chanmin went to find her two friends to show them that Ho-sung was lying and probably wanted to blame Chang-kyung, since he could no longer defend himself. That night, a lot happened. Ho-sung told his father that the real culprit behind everything was Seo Jae-young. Meanwhile, it seemed that Seo Jae-young would have a complicated night. He even took Chanmin's hand and led her to a store to resolve some issues. But, as you already know, it seemed too good to be true. Suddenly, Yoon-kyung appeared with his friends to take him and give him the beating that Seo Jae-young had given him before. Unable to call the police, Seo Jae-young told Jae-pung, who was having a very intense nightmare, or rather, a flashback of what really happened. The good part is that Jae-pung would take care of everything, but while he hadn't arrived, Yoon-kyung made Seo Jae-young experience what it was like to be tied to a chair. The next morning, Ho-sung appeared to try to extract the whole truth from Seo Jae-young, attempting to incriminate him. After a series of events, Jae-pung's men arrived to help, and Jae-pung dealt directly with Ho-sung, as he had now recovered all his memory. Curiously, when Ho-sung was signing a confidentiality agreement, he used his left hand and wrote his name wrong. When he corrected it with his right hand, they realized something. The real culprit in the mechanic's case was left-handed, which reassured Chanmin, since Yoon-kyung was right-handed. Chanmin was at the police station, as she had asked the police to investigate her brother's phone. It seemed that someone was still paying the bill for that number. Meanwhile, Yoon-kyung told Chanmin that she should flee, because sooner or later, they would come after her, since she was the intermediary who hired the revenge services. If the intermediary disappeared, there would be no way to link Yoon-kyung to the investigation. Yoon decided he should tell his father the whole truth and warn him about what was coming, as everything he had done was because he was in love with Yoon-kyung. At the same time, he casually met Jae-bong, who was trying to get the attention of his half-brother, as he knew they had kissed. Meanwhile, Chanmin revealed to Yoon-kyung that the culprit in the mechanic's case was left-handed, which reminded him of what he saw with Jae-bong. And when they talked about left-handed people, they started thinking about the video of Chanmin's brother, as left-handed people usually use their left foot. This could provide clues about who the culprit was, as the video showed a foot. They then decided to contact a friend who had moved to the United States. Returning to the confrontation with Jae-bong, he confessed that he had pushed Chang-kyung from the balcony because he wanted to stop him from continuing to be manipulated. The pressure Ho-sung had put on him had turned him into a person everyone hated. Jae-bong deduced that, just as he did with Chang-kyung, Ho-sung was probably trying to do the same with him. However, Ho-sung asked Jae-bong if the memory loss had caused him to push Chang-kyung, making him reflect on what really happened. While the protagonist still had many doubts, they planned a trap for Jae-bong. They bought a phone identical to Chang-kyung's and told him they had already found the device and were going to report it to the police. This terrified him, and he ended up going to the place where he had hidden the phone, unaware that he was being followed. Jae-bong thought he was cornered, but before he could respond, Ho-sung appeared from behind, partially saving him, which led to an argument between the two. All of this revealed that Jae-bong had another personality within him, something that was explained later. In a conversation with Chanmin, he confessed that he had a twin brother who had died when they were 14 years old, an event that was very difficult to overcome. Over time, the pain faded, but he began to feel that he wasn't alone, as if he was always accompanied by someone else. Back at the stable, when Ho-sung woke up, Jae-bong and Chanmin had already disappeared. With no other option, Chanmin and Seo Jae-young did the most logical thing. They reported everything to the police. To their surprise, there wasn't enough evidence to start an investigation, especially since Jae-bong had disappeared, and all that was found was his car, abandoned by the river. However, all the events connected certain points, which led Detective Jean to review security cameras from different locations. Everything pointed to Jae-bong's presence at key moments. Since no one knew where he was, Chanmin and Ho-sung set up another trap to force him to confess that he had been at the stable that night and that he had attacked Seo Jae-young. When Ho-sung refused to talk, Chanmin sent a recording to Detective Jean, cornering Ho-sung. This was part of a bigger plan. Now, Seo Jae-young asked Jae-young to place a tracker in his brother's suitcase, which would help locate Jae-bong's hideout. Meanwhile, Chang Kyung's friend returned to Korea because there were many important details that hadn't been revealed. It was discovered that he was Chang Kyung's real boyfriend, and that Ho-sung had been manipulating the whole situation. Jae-bong had tried to protect his friend, but several pieces still didn't fit together. Fortunately, Seo Jae-young managed to escape and found Jae-bong at a pier. There, many other truths were revealed. After the accident, Jae-bong lost his memory, and Ho-sung manipulated him to do what he wanted. Jae-bong confessed that he had made the phone call that day and was ready to face the consequences of his actions. However, his other personality took control, saying that his brother was a monster who had hurt many people. Do you remember the day of the basketball game? It was at that moment, fueled by jealousy, that Jae-bong argued with Ho-sung and ended up finding the receipt that would change everything. With Seo Jae-young canceling their meeting, Jae-bong started following him, suspecting something. He tracked Ho-sung to the workshop, and in a desperate attempt to help the mechanic, he ended up being framed. This pushed him into making drastic decisions that would change his life forever. Chanmin, realizing the inner turmoil Jae-bong was going through, spoke to him from the heart. She knew that deep down he was a good person, caught in a cycle of bad choices. "Free your mind," she said. "You're only making things worse by staying close to those who aren't really your friends." Her words touched Jae-bong. He finally regained control of himself. And in that moment of clarity, Chanmin managed to stop him from doing something irreversible. She reminded him that mistakes have consequences, but that he had to face his crimes head-on in the name of justice. Meanwhile, Seo Jae-young received a message from Yi-hyung, asking him to meet on the rooftop. There, Seo Jae-young realized he had fallen into a trap, carefully orchestrated by Ho-sung, who had figured everything out. Ho-sung had plans to eliminate him, but he underestimated how far Seo Jae-young was willing to go to fight back. Soon, rumors that Seo Jae-young was on the rooftop spread through the school like wildfire, but the girl who had helped him, determined to clear his name, sent a mass message revealing to everyone that he was the true hero. She told everyone how Ho-sung had threatened her sister to try and destroy Seo Jae-young, and how, because of him, Chang Kyung had changed and become someone he wasn't. She pleaded with their classmates to protect Seo Jae-young when the police began investigating, because no one wanted to see the hero treated like a criminal. When the interrogations began, everyone was unanimous. Ho-sung was alone on the rooftop. With graduation approaching, it seemed that, finally, the story would end there. Chanmin, after so much suffering and struggle, was accepted into the Navy, a fresh start that symbolized her strength and determination. And Seo Jae-young, he left the school applauded and revered by his classmates, walking out the front door like a true hero. They were officially together, at least for now, as everyone knew about the silent battle Seo Jae-young was fighting with a serious health issue. But at that moment, they had won a war. And with that victory, for the first time, the future seemed a little brighter. Remember, if you like K-dramas, subscribe to Uncle Drama so you don't miss the upcoming videos. Take care.